बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम।
शुरू अल्लाह के नाम से जो रहमान और रहीम है।
इक़रा बिस्मि रब्बिकल्लज़ी खलक़।
पढ़ो ए नबी अपने रब के नाम के साथ जिसने पैदा किया।
खलक़ल इंसान मिन अलक़।
जमे हुए खून के एक लोथड़े से इंसान की तख्लीक की।
इक़रा व रब्बुकल अकरम।
पढ़ो और तुम्हारा रब बड़ा करीम है।
अल्लज़ी अल्लम बिल क़लम।
जिसने कलम के जरिए से इल्म सिखाया।
अल्लमल इंसान मा लम यअलम।
इंसान को वो इल्म दिया जिसे वो न जानता था।
Okay students, now we have completed our chapter number 9, that was heating and cooling, and I am going to start the next chapter, that is chapter number 10, light. What's the name of chapter? The name of chapter is light. Students, what is light? Why do we need light? Light is basically a form of energy, just like heat. Heat is a form of energy, as well as light is also a form of energy. Why do we need light? Because this light helps us to see different objects. If there is no light, there will be the darkness, and in the darkness we cannot observe different objects. That's why light is a form of energy that can be detected by our eyes. Light is a form of energy that can be detected by our eyes. When the light strikes on any object, and after striking the light on the object, it will reflect back into our eyes, and in our eyes there is a very thin layer of retina that makes the image of that object. That's why light is very important for us, right? The speed of light is also very important. Speed of light. Just like heat, light can also travel through solid. Light can travel through solid, through liquid, and through the gases. In our surrounding there is a air is a gas, and we can see the things that is present in our surrounding. It means light can travel through the air. We can see what is present inside the water. If the water is clear, it means light can travel through the water, and we can observe the things that are present inside the water. Similarly, if the light can pass through the glass, if the glass is transparent, where we can see what is behind this glass, it means light can travel through the solid, because glass is a solid. So light is a form of energy that can travel. Light can travel through solid, liquid, gases, as well as through vacuum. So what will be the speed of light? Always remember, the speed of light is much more faster than the speed of sound. The speed of light in vacuum, the speed of light is different in solid, the speed of light will be different in glass, as well as the speed of light will be very different in gases, but the speed of light in vacuum is 300 crore meter per second. The speed of light is very much faster. It can move, or it can cover the distance of 300 crore meter per second. It means एक second के अंदर light कितना travel कर रही है? 300 crore meter per second. In short, we can say that light can travel in vacuum at a speed 3 × 10⁻⁸ meter per second, which is very much faster than the speed of any other form of energy. If we talk about the speed of sound, which is also a form of energy, so the sound can travel at a speed of 3. Sound can travel in vacuum at speed 343 meter per second, which is very less as compared to the speed of light in vacuum. So the speed of light is different in different media. If we talk about the properties of light, which is the second topic of today's lecture, that is properties of light. So the first property will be the speed of light, that is different at different media. The speed of light is different at different media, means light will travel at different speed in solid, liquid and gases. The speed of light is greater. Speed of light in solid is greater than in liquid and lesser than gases. लाइट की स्पीड सबसे ज्यादा फास्ट होगी सॉलिड में, फिर लिक्विड एंड देन गैसेस. इफ वी टॉक अबाउट द वे ऑफ how the light travels, then the second property of light is that light travel in a straight line. Light travels in a straight line if the medium is same. What is the second property of light? Light travels in a straight line. Light हमेशा straight line में travel करती है if the medium is same. For example, the light that is passing from gaseous medium, if all the mediums are gaseous, then the speed of light will be same, as well as the light will travel in a straight line. Let's take an example by this diagram. These are the 3 cardboards, alright, and we make a hole in the center of each cardboard like this, and here we provide a source of light. And from the next side you can observe the traveling of light. If we switch on, the bulb will starts to glow. When the bulb starts to glow, light starts to travel. Light will enter in the first hole. In the hole, the medium is gaseous, because inside the hole there is air, and air is a mixture of gases. So first of all, light will enter into the first hole. After that it will pass into the second hole. From second hole it will pass into the third hole, and on the other side, if you are observing the light, you will see a straight line traveling from all the holes. तमाम holes में से एक straight line light की travel करे. It means if the medium is same, then the light will travel with the same speed in a straight line. But if we place a hardboard or a card sheet without any hole, what will happen? Could you see the light is traveling in a straight line? क्या आपको नजर आएगा कि वहां से लाइट ट्रैवल कर रही है? No, because now the medium is changed. The first medium is gaseous medium, the air. The second medium now here is solid, because there is no hole. Then what will happen with the light? The light will strike that hard sheet and reflect it back. You cannot observe the light ray from other side. If you are standing on the other side and the middle sheet is without any hole, then you cannot observe the light ray. Why you cannot observe the light ray? Because now the medium has changed. And if there are different mediums, light cannot travel in straight line. It will strike back. If it was passing through this hole with this angle, then it will strike back with the same angle. It will not travel in a straight line. This is also called reflection of light. The light that strikes from a gaseous medium to another medium, that is a solid medium, then the light will not travel in a straight line. It will strike. It will reflect back. So you cannot observe that straight line from the other side because there are two different mediums. But if the medium is same, then the light will travel in a straight line, and you can see from the other side. So this was the second property of light. We have different types of objects regarding to light. Objects regarding to light, like luminous objects, and non-luminous objects. What are luminous objects? Luminous objects are basically those objects which produce their own light, which gives out their own light. Objects that are able to give out their own light, जिनकी अपनी खुद की लाइट हो और वो उस लाइट को प्रोड्यूस कर सकें, those objects are called luminous objects. For example, torch, bulb, candle, sun. If we blow the candle will produce its own light. Like this. This candle is a luminous object. It gives out its own light. It does not need to take reflection of some other light. It produces its own light. So this is a luminous object which is producing its own light. Then what are non-luminous objects? Non-luminous objects are those objects which are not able to produce or to give out their own light. For example, planets and moon. Moon does not has its own light, as well as planets does not has its own light, but at night we can see them. How we can see them? Because the sun's light which strikes on the planet and the moon, सूरज की रोशनी जो कि इस चांद पर और planets पर पड़ती है, that will reflect and we can see them easily. Otherwise they do not have their own lights. So these are the objects regarding to the light. We have some other materials which can absorb heat, radiate, reflect heat and transmit heat. So we can say that these are the materials having different optical properties. Materials having or have different optical properties. If we look at our surrounding, we will observe there are different sorts of material with different optical properties. There are some materials which can absorb the light, जो light को absorb कर लेते हैं. There are some other materials which can transmit the light, जो light को pass करवा देते हैं. As well as there are some other materials which cannot absorb the light nor they transmit the light, they reflect the light. So what are they called? इन्हें हम क्या कह सकते हैं? So these are three different types of materials. The first one is called transparent material. Transparent materials or objects translucent objects and opaque objects. What are transparent object, what are translucent object, and what are opaque objects? Basically, transparent objects are those objects which allow almost all light to pass through them, like this beaker. If you look at this beaker allow almost all light to pass through it. Why we are saying that this beaker allows almost all light to pass through it? Because we can see what is inside this beaker as well as we can see what is behind this beaker. इस beaker के अंदर क्या है हम वो भी देख सकते हैं और इस beaker के बाहर या उसके इर्द गिर्द सराउंडिंग में क्या है वो भी हम देख सकते हैं. Why? Because it is a transparent material that allow almost all heat, allow almost all light to pass through them, to pass through them. For example, glass, diamond, some sort of plastics, and etc. You can see behind the glass, you can see what is inside the glass as well as you can see what is behind the diamond and the plastic. All the plastics are not transparent, some sort of plastics are transparent. Then what about translucent object? Translucent objects allow little amount of light to transmit. बहुत थोड़ी सी लाइट को ये ट्रांसमिट करते हैं. We cannot see exactly what is behind them, but light can transmit through them. Light can transmit through them. This is a frosted glass. We cannot exactly see what is behind them, but light can travel with a little amount through this frosted glass. So this is an example of translucent object. Similarly, we have different sorts of object like tracing paper is also an example of translucent object. Rice paper, frosted glass. These are the examples of translucent objects. The last one we have opaque object. Opaque objects are basically those objects which do not allow any sort of light to pass through them. Do not allow light to pass through them. They just absorbs the light. They just absorbs the light, like this green board. You cannot see the wall that is present behind this board because this is an opaque object which absorb almost all amount of light that is striking on this object or reflect that light. या तो वो स्लाइट को एब्जॉर्ब कर ले रहा है या उसे क्या कर रहा है, रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है, बट इट इज नॉट ट्रांसफरिंग दैट लाइट. दैट्स व्हाई वी कैन नॉट सी व्हाट इज बिहाइंड इट. लाइक this scale is an opaque object. Light cannot pass through through this scale. इस scale से light pass नहीं हो सकती. Like this chalk box, light cannot pass through this chalk box. So the chalk box, this scale and the board are the examples of opaque object. There are so many other examples of opaque object like ceramic tiles, wood, and iron rod, and so many other things. These are the examples of opaque object. So we have discussed about the materials that have different optical properties. Some materials absorbs light, some material transmits light, or some materials reflect light. If we compare these properties or optical properties, then transparent objects are those objects that transmits the light, whereas translucent objects are those objects that allow little light to pass through them but absorbs almost all the light, whereas opaque objects are those objects which reflect the light. Opaque objects reflects the light, translucent objects absorbs the light, whereas transparent objects transmits transmit almost all light. Now I'm going to discuss the third topic of today's lecture, that is shadow. Students, what is shadow? A shadow is basically a darker region. Look at this on the board. What have you observed? You are observing a dark shadow of my hand that is present on the board. How this dark shadow has made? When the light strikes on my hand, this light is blocked by my hand. मेरे हाथ ने इस लाइट को क्या किया है? ब्लॉक कर दिया है. That's why light cannot pass through my hand. As a result, a darker region is formed behind my hand because the path of light is blocked. लाइट के ट्रैवल करने का रास्ता ब्लॉक होने की वजह से क्या हुआ? एक डार्कर रीजन बन रहा है हाथ के पीछे, एंड दैट डार्कर रीजन इज कॉल्ड a shadow. You can see a darker region behind my hand, and that darker region is called shadow. So what is shadow? A darker region that is formed when the path of light is, path means way of light, is blocked by an object, then that darker region is called shadow. A darker region that is formed when the path of light is blocked by an object, that is called shadow. We can take another example. Let's suppose this is a building. This is a housing building, and what happened with this housing building? When the sun's light strikes to this housing building, what will happen? The path of light will be blocked. As a result, a darker region will be formed behind this building, and that darker region is called shadow. This darker region is called shadow. As you can see, when the light rays strikes on the building, what will happen with the building? The building will stops the path of light, block the path of light, as a result of which a darker region is formed behind this building, and that darker region is called shadow. Okay students, now I am going to discuss the types of shadow. What we are going to discuss? We are going to discuss the second part of the topic shadow, that is types of shadow. Types of shadow on the basis of size and position. On the basis of size and position of light source and an object. एक ऑब्जेक्ट का साइज क्या है, एक ऑब्जेक्ट की पोजीशन क्या है, एज वेल एज एक लाइट सोर्स जो कि हम यूज करें टू मेक अ शैडो, लाइट सोर्स का साइज क्या है, लाइट सोर्स की पोजीशन क्या है, उसकी बेसिस पे वी हैव टू डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ शैडो. द फर्स्ट वन इज कॉल्ड umbra and the second one is called penumbra. We have two types of shadow, umbra and penumbra. What is umbra? An umbra is a darker region with a well defined and sharp outline. I hope you can observe at the board, this is a umbra. This is a umbra, the shadow that is forming behind my hand. It has a sharp outline and it's a darker region, that's why it is called umbra. Then what about penumbra? Penumbra is a partially dark area or a dark region. partially dark region without well defined outline is called penumbra. A partially dark region without well defined line, this is called penumbra. दो तरह के shadow, if a shadow is with a darker region and well defined outline, then this shadow will be called umbra. And if there is a shadow with a partially dark region and without any well defined outline, then this will be called penumbra. If we have pointed source of light, then only umbra will form. This is about the shadow. Now the source of light. If the source of light is pointed, then what type of shadow will form? If the source of light is pointed, then only umbra will formed. Then only umbra shadow will formed. Then how does a penumbra shadow is formed? When the source of light is extended. Source of light is extended means light is scattered all around, that is called extended source of light. And if a light is passing through some point, then this is called pointed source of light. If the source of light is extended, then both umbra and penumbra will formed. Let's take an example through this chart. The first diagram is showing shadow formed by pointed light source. If the source of light is pointed, you can see this is a bulb that is glowing and the light is passing through some point, through a single point. Then as a result of this, only a darker region is formed behind that object. This is the object which blocks the light of this bulb, which is passing through a single point at the center of this sheet. When the light is traveling through this hole, it is blocked by this object. As a result of this, a darker shadow that is called umbra is formed on the screen. As you can see, this is a darker shadow, this is called umbra, which is formed when the light is blocked by an object which is coming from a single point, that is called pointed source of light. As a result, only umbra or darker shadow is formed. But when we changed the source of light, here there is no pointed source, the light is scattered all around, then the light which is blocked by the object form two types of shadow. The darker shadow is called umbra, whereas the lighter shadow or a partial dark area, this is called penumbra. Now you can see there are two different shadows which are formed by the after blockage of light which is striking on that object, but the source of light is extended. Light चारों तरफ से ऑब्जेक्ट पर पड़ रही थी, किसी पॉइंटेड सोर्स से नहीं आ रही थी, जिसकी वजह से क्या हुआ, ऑब्जेक्ट ने लाइट को ब्लॉक किया. दो तरह के शेडो बने, umbra and penumbra. Penumbra is a darker shadow, whereas umbra is a darker shadow, whereas penumbra is a partial dark area. But when the source of light was pointed, there was only one shadow, that was the umbra, which is a darker region with a sharp, well-defined outline. Reflection of light. Before starting the topic of reflection of light, you must know about some terminology, some diagrammatical representation of light. How can we represent the light diagrammatically? Diagrammatical representation of light. A light that is traveling along with the path is called ray. So we can represent the light traveling in a straight line by a ray. This is called ray. What is ray? We can represent the light in the form of diagram, and that diagrammatical representation is called ray. What is ray? The path along with light travels. वो रास्ता जहां से लाइट ट्रेवल करती है, that path is called light ray. And what does this arrow shows? The arrow shows the direction. Arrow shows the direction of light. If we have one ray, that is called ray, but if we have bundle of rays, if we have bundle of rays, then it would be called beam of light. If we have bundle of rays which are traveling in a straight line, then it will be called beam of light. Means bundle of rays. Beam of light is the bundle of rays. We have three different types of beam of lights. Types of beam of light. We have three different types of beam of light. Number one, parallel. If the light rays are traveling in a straight line parallelly, then they are called parallel beam of light. This bundle of rays which are traveling in parallelly, they are called parallel beam of light. But if the light rays are collecting at one point in this way, then these bundle of rays are called converging beam of light. They are called converging beam of light, because light rays are coming in different directions, but they are merging or meeting at one point. That's why it is called converging beam of light. But if the light rays are scattered at different points, if the light rays are coming from one source but they are scattered at different points, then these rays of light or this beam of light is called diverging beam of light. So what we have discussed in diagrammatical representation of light, light is diagrammatically represented in the form of ray. When there is a bundle of rays, then it is called beam of light. And there are three different types of beam of light. If the light rays are traveling parallelly, then this is called parallel beam of light. But if the light rays are collecting or meeting or converging at one point, then these beam of lights are called converging beam of light. When the light rays are scattered in different directions from one source, emitting from one source but scattered in different direction, then these beam of lights are called diverging beam of light. Now it will be easy for you to understand what is reflection of light and types of reflection. Reflection of light, student always remember there are some sort of objects which are shiny in their texture. When the light rays strike on some shiny surfaces, it will strike back, it will bounce back, it will reflect back, and this process of bouncing back of light or return of light from some sort of object, this is called reflection of light. So what is reflection of light? The bouncing of or return of light when it strikes on an object. Whenever light strikes on an object, if it is shiny, then or if it is an opaque object, it will strike back. जिस एंगल से वो लाइट आ रही है उसी एंगल से वो लाइट वापस चली जाती है. It will not absorb, it will not transmit, it will strike back, it will bounce back, or it will return back. So this is called reflection of light. Let's take an example of a plane mirror surface. If this is a plane mirror surface and light ray is striking on this mirror surface with some angle, let's suppose it is striking with the angle of 30 degree, then what will happen? The light ray that is striking on this plane mirror surface will bounce back or the strikes back with the same angle. जिस एंगल से आई थी उसी एंगल से ये वापस चली गई. So this is called reflection of light. This is called reflection of light. The light ray that is striking on the surface is called incident ray. This will be called incident ray. The light ray that was bounced back, it is called reflected ray. How can we say that it is an incident ray and the second one is reflected ray? By this arrow we can identify the incident ray and the reflected ray. The incident ray's arrow always moves pointed towards the surface on which it is striking, whereas the arrow of the reflected ray will always opposite from the surface of the object or from which it is reflected back. So incident ray, reflected ray, and the line at the right angle of the surface is called normal. Surface, जिस भी surface से light ray strike कर रही है उसके बिल्कुल 90 डिग्री के एंगल पर जो रास्ता होता है, जो लाइन होगी, that will be called normal. So what is normal? Normal is the path at right angle to the surface. The path at the right angle to the surface is called normal. What is incident ray? The ray that strike on the surface is called incident ray. What is reflected ray? The ray that is reflected is called reflected ray. What about the angle of incident ray and what about the angle of reflected ray? The angle that is present between the normal and the incident ray, the angle that is present between the incident ray and the normal is called angle of incidence, whereas the angle that is present between the normal and the reflected ray is called angle of reflection. So what will be the angle of incidence? Angle of incidence, angle between incident ray and normal, that is angle of reflection, angle of incidence. What will be the angle of reflection? Angle of reflection, it is the angle between reflected ray and normal. Normal and reflected ray के दरमियान में जो angle है, that is called angle of reflection. So what we have discussed the ray diagram or the diagrammatical representation of reflection of light, in which we have discussed about the normal, which is the path at the right angle to the surface We have discussed about incident ray. The ray that strike on the surface is called incident ray. The ray that is reflected back is called reflected ray. And we have discussed about two different angles. The angle that is present between the normal and the incident ray is called angle of incidence, whereas the angle that is present between the normal and the reflected ray is called angle of reflection. Students, always remember one thing whenever you are studying about the reflection of light. Always remember that angle of incidence will always equals to angle of reflection. If the angle of incidence is 40 degree, then angle of reflection will always be 40 degree if the light rays is striking on a smooth plane surface, on the smooth plane surface. But if the surface is not smooth, then what will happen? Then the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection will not same. Angle of incidence or angle of reflection same nahi hoga if the light is striking on a rough surface. If the light is striking on a smooth surface, then angle of incidence and the angle of reflection will remain same. Now it's time to discuss about the types of reflection. Types of reflection. We have two different types of reflection: regular reflection diffused, scattered or irregular reflection. Okay, we have two different types of reflection: regular reflection, diffused or scattered, or we can say that irregular reflection. What is regular reflection? Reflection from smooth surfaces. Reflection from smooth surfaces or reflection that takes place on a smooth surface is called regular reflection. And what are the smooth surfaces? Plane mirror surface. For example, reflection takes place through plane mirror surface is called a regular reflection, whereas reflection that takes place on wavy or rough surfaces. Reflection that takes place on wavy or rough surface, that is called irregular reflection. We have the first diagram is the diagram of reflection of parallel beam of light. When the reflection is taken place on a smooth surface by the parallel beam of light, then the reflected rays will always be parallels. Reflected rays will parallel, whereas the reflection that takes place by converging beam of light. If you look at this diagram, diagram is showing reflection of converging light rays or the converging beam of light. When the converging beam of lights are striking on a plane mirror surface, as a result of this, a real image will form. A real image will form. What is real image? An image that can be taken on the screen with a sharp outline. An image that can be taken on a screen with a sharp outline, that image is called real image, which is formed as a result of converging beam of result when the converging beam of lights are striking on a plane mirror surface. Then what will happen when the diverging beam of light are striking on a plane mirror surface? When the diverging beam of lights are striking on a plane mirror surface, as a result of this, a virtual image is formed. A virtual image is formed. What is virtual image? An image that cannot be caught on the screen. एक ऐसे इमेज जो स्क्रीन पर नहीं आ रही है, that will be formed. Then how can we see the virtual image? We are seeing the virtual images which cannot be caught on the screen. So the answer is, when the converging rays are striking on a plane mirror surface, a virtual image is formed, but the virtual image which is formed due to scattered reflection, due to diverging beams of light, these diverging beams of light are caught or converted by the lens which are present in our eyes. We have convex lens in our eyes. A lens that sides are bulged outward. It's a type of lens whose sides are bulged outward. बाहर की तरफ sides निकली होती है. Reflected side is bulged outward. हमारी आंखों का जो लेंस होता है उसकी जो आउटर लेयर है रेटिना, उस पे जो लेंस है उसकी जो साइड होती है वो बाहर की तरफ निकली हुई होती है. When the light rays which are diverging lights forms the virtual image, these diverging rays are collected by this lens, that is the convex lens. And what will this lens do? This lens will converge the light. The diverged light rays are converged onto the lens, and as a result on the retina a real image will form. The converging image will be converted into real image by the convex lens that is present on our eyes. In this way we can see the image formed by the diverging rays of light, that is the virtual image, which is converted by the convex lens in our eyes into the real image, and then we can see that image. The last diagram is the diagram that is showing irregular reflection or the rough surface reflection, that is called scattered or diffused reflection. It's a type of reflection. It's a type of reflection after which there will be no image. Irregular reflection. As a result of irregular reflection, no image will form. Why there is no image? Because the light rays are striking at different angles and they are reflecting back as well as with different angles. As a result, there will be no image. So students, this is all about today's class, in which we have discussed about chapter number 10. We have started chapter number 10, in which we discuss different topics. First of all, we discuss about light, the definition of light, the speed of light, properties of light. Then we have discussed about the objects with different optical properties, in which we have discussed about transparent, translucent and opaque objects. After that we have discussed about shadow. In shadow we have discussed two types of shadow, penumbra and umbra, with extended and pointed source of light. After that we have discussed about the reflection of light, and in reflection of light we have discussed about different types of beams of light, and then types of reflection, in which we discuss regular reflection, irregular reflection. In regular reflection we have discussed about the reflection from parallel beam of light, the reflection from converging beam of light, the reflection from diverging beam of light, and at last we have discussed about the irregular reflection, diffused or scattered reflection. Now it's time for homework. You will do make a chart showing difference between regular and irregular reflection of light diagrammatically. What will you do in copy work? Make title page and do review question number 1 to 6 and try it out page number 2 to 3. What will you do in your homework? You will make a chart that will shows a difference between regular and irregular reflection diagrammatically. What will you do in your copy? Make the title page of chapter number 10 and do review question 1 to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and at last you will do try it out page number 223. We will meet inshallah in the third video with the remaining topics of chapter number 10. Till then, take care of yourself, do your work. We will meet inshallah in the next video. Allah Hafiz.